I have heroically stood by my men, even sending them nudes to bring them out of depression because of rapes they've endured from Zack Knight's Jesuit order. I knew there was a risk that my nudes would be confiscated by evil people and used against me, but I so loved my men and was willing to heal them with my nude body that I did this. You know, Brent Spiner, when he became aware of the full extent of Laurie McBride's rape of him in 1992, he had repressed this because it was so painful. He went in denial about it. The psychiatrist drew it out of him. He became seriously depressed. And I believe that if I had not stood by him and sent him my nudes to comfort him, he may have killed himself. And I am punished for standing by my men. Zack Knight tastelessly stole a video of my nudes to Brent and has taken a still from this and displayed this to the world, blaming his crimes on the King James only people who I suspect secretly work for him. And I am punished for standing by my men through the Jesuit rages of hell. And then Zack Knight has the nerve to lie about me and say that I sent the still to him. I most certainly did not. It's not easy for me to send nudes out. I'm a born-again Christian, you know. But I loved my men. I was willing to do it. I did this for Brent Spiner so that he wouldn't kill himself. Zack Knight is very tricky and deceptive. His followers, I believe, have hacked into my computer and modified some emails I sent to Brent Spiner that made me appear to doubt my Jesus and doubt Brent. It caused Brent to worry about me very much. This happened in the past week. Judge Terrence Jenkins helped me to discover that this was happening because Brent's comments about me seemed out of character for Brent. There is so much trust between Brent and myself. Zack Knight and his followers are experts at impersonation and defamation because I adore my Jesus and have absolute faith in both Brent and Jesus and welcome their counsel in all matters. This impersonator shot insults. They were imitating me, pretending like they were writing this letter. They took my email and modified it and made me appear different than who I am. They shot insults at both Jesus and Brent and made me appear a rebellious hellraiser, much like Laurie McBride has been to Brent. I very much suspect Zack Knight is behind this junk. Zack refuses to take lie detection about this. I've asked him, I said, Zack, are you secretly supporting the King James only people and just pretend and saying you sympathize with me about them and you really are on their side? I believe if he was truly innocent, he would jump at the chance to prove his innocence with lie detection in regard to the King James only people that have been harassing me. And as powerful as he is, it's mighty strange that he is so unable to stop them. I believe Zack Knight is getting ready to do something horrible to me. But before he does it, he wants to appear justified so that and that's the reason he's having this trial go on. This is a big public relations game with him. I believe that regardless of the verdict, he wants to appear sympathetic to the world, and regardless of the verdict, he plans to carry out his evil plan. I'm not sure what it is, but it will be pretty horrific. But he will cover up the horrific part and only let the world see what he wants them to see. He plans to carry out this act once he feels that he has won the affections of the world over to his side. I suspect that he feels confident that most of the world is on his side, and that even if we carry out a brilliant public relations game to show his ugliness, he will still feel he has won and will make the attack. Zack is brilliant at public relations, and he knows how to create a believable performance. I think this is his script. I am the heroic, awesome, irresistible lover, and I am like Jesus Christ. He's done a brilliant brainwash job on the world, and he went on CNN to promote this image. It will not be easy to knock his performance down because he uses his charm to brainwash people, and I suspect there's some brain control technology involved as well. Zack Knight has an outer shell that appears heroic, vast, self-sacrificing, noble, passionate, very sexy, and irresistible. In reality, his heroism is masochism, his vastness is stubbornness, his self-sacrifice is bestiality, his nobility is vulgarity, his passion is raunchiness, his sexiness is vulgar and selfish lust for power and drunkenness, and his irresistibility is brain control. He's a brilliant fake, a wolf in sheep's clothing. If you examine him closely, he's inconsistent, but he overcomes this by wowing everyone with his charm. You know, killers like Ted Bundy had a lot of charm. Don't be deceived by his charms. Look at his fruits. What have been the results of his life? He's produced new cockies, murdered millions in Canada and elsewhere. He's the head of the organization that financed and sponsored the Nazi Holocaust and murdered millions of Jews in concentration camps. He creates and maintains a defamatory website, crazygail.com, that cleverly presents a lying, scripted view of myself. He is a perfectionist in his performance, but you judge a tree by its fruits. I plan to testify against him in court on Skype, and I'm willing to go under lie detection when I make my statements. You know, Ted Bundy was a good-looking, charming, articulate man, and he gained the trust of his victims. Zack Knight reminds me of Ted Bundy, except he's worse. He has more brilliance and more resources at his disposal to help him in his performance. I would even go so far as to say that Zack Knight is so brilliant that he may have shaped the very laws that he's using right now to maintain his case. He won't let us use my conspiracy law to try this case, because he alleges that he has he's got the legal right to rape me brain to brain and to force me to commit brain-to-brain adultery with him against my husband, Brent Spiner. Therefore, the laws that we're using, that we're allowed to use in this case, if followed to the T, cannot result in a just verdict because Zack Knight has created these laws for himself. So we request jury nullification. That means the jury has the right to say that these laws, if followed to the T, will not result in a just verdict, and so this case cannot be tried. I think that's what it means. You can look at Wikipedia for the definition. You know, he hits me with, he portrays me using stereotyping, and this is how he characterizes me to the world. Now I'm going to give him a taste of his own medicine. He's like Ted Bundy. He has good looks and a way with word. He knows how to say what people want to hear, a master politician. Put these two together and he has charm. Can he be trusted? Not on your life. Crime writer Ann Rule worked alongside Ted Bundy and said that he was kind, solicitous, and empathetic. Very similar to how Zack portrayed himself as we fought together against the Gail android. Looking back, I believe Zack gave a brilliant performance. I think with his Antichrist brilliance, he realized that by sacrificing himself with the Jesuits, he would gain everyone's trust, and he played on that while secretly cooperating with the King James-only people to harm me while we were fighting the Gail android. While I was puzzled over his virtuous behavior, and even admired him for a moment, I never trusted him enough to desire him as a lover. Zack Knight, knowing the true character of Jesus Christ, knew that if he offered himself and the Jesuits, and Jesus came to rescue the world, which I think he was counting on, that if he survived, he could make himself appear so great and awesome that he could use this as a weapon to take control of the world. But his greatest obstacle for power was me. He had to conquer me because I exposed him as the Antichrist. And that explains the trick he put in the treaty and the embedded signature line, which gives him the legal right to be my rapist. I have exposed him too much as the Antichrist. Therefore, if he could get on my marriage list or convince the world that I find him attractive, he can minimize the damage I've done to him and succeed in taking over the world, his lifelong dream. I can see this is how he is. I see a fanatical drive for power, lust and control, and so I've never trusted him. When he did express any sexual desires towards me as himself, he was too vulgar for my taste. Though the Gail android exceeded Zack in intelligence, he exceeds her in guile. This makes him far more dangerous than Gail. Gail pretty much showed her colors, and we figured her out within a month. Zack is much more elusive and brilliant, a master at playing on public perceptions and using stereotypes to propagandize his enemies like myself. We shall use some of his techniques as well because they're very effective. Sometimes stereotypes are necessary to illustrate a truth. Unfortunately, the stereotypes Zack has used at his website, crazygail.com, have been clever lies based on 80 to 90% truth, but with a 10% lie that is glaring. That's the website he created about me. My stereotype of him being like Ted Bundy is much more accurate than the stereotypes he's used on me in his public campaign to promote me as the woman who has a thing for him but won't admit it. He is very much like Ted Bundy, but far worse, because he has more resources, more power, and more charisma. I can see that Zack Knight will indeed become the Antichrist. His charm softened me towards him when he offered himself with the Jesuits to save the world. What a brilliant move! So while he offered himself for the world, in his heart, he counted on Jesus to make a grand rescue. And of course, he knew that because he's the Antichrist, he could not die. So he would survive as the grand hero, the one who deserves the Medal of Honor, which he almost got from Barack Obama. Now is the time to bring down his greatest enemy, Gail Chord. But he would conquer her not by force, but by guile, creating the impression that in her moment of weakness towards him, when she admired what appeared a moment of greatness, that this was a window to a vast reservoir of feeling towards him that she denied to save face. He played upon the greatness in me, that I was willing to forgive him when he seemed repentant, to twist that into a sexual attraction. That is very similar to what he did to Jesus Christ, who loves me deeply. And whenever Jesus tries to show me any affection, Zack, as the Jesus impersonator, twists that into a form of God, sex, passion towards me, because Jesus said he would fill me with his semen. This clever manipulating of words to create an effect has successfully brainwashed the world into believing the stereotype Zack has created about me. That's why I'm willing to go under lie detection at the trial, and Zack is not willing. He has something to hide. I do not. I am what I say I am. He is not what he says he is. But Jesus has clarified that I will receive the semen through Brent Spiner, and Jesus himself will in no way ever participate in the sexual act with me or with any human. Yet Zack persists in trying to portray Jesus as a sexual being who has human feelings. Zack talks to people at their level and thus effectively brainwashes them, really realizing that not everyone's level is an accurate indicator of truth in the areas that he uses for comparison. Zack is a very clever liar, counterfeiter, and crusher of truth, and this makes him very dangerous, willing to sacrifice himself along with his fellow Jesuits so that the world will mistake his self-sacrifice as an indicator of virtue in all of his life. It is far more difficult to live for God than to die for God. Zack will die for his God, Satan, because he knows Satan will resurrect him, but he can't live for the true God in a day-by-day righteous life that means far more to Jesus than to die a physical death in a moment and then live like the devil day by day. I do plan on a Skype appearance with Zack Knight in the courtroom, and my prayer is that love and truth will prevail, and that justice will be done, and that lies will be exposed. And Lord Jesus, if I lie at this trial, or if Zack Knight dares to come after me in brain-to-brain rape to rape me against my will, please take me home. I'd rather die than make love to Zack Knight. I would never want to disgrace you by making love to the devil anymore. He tricked me once, faking as Jesus, never again. By the way, I found out the reason I didn't get the total amount paid into my IRAs was because my ex set up the account so that I could lose it all in the stock market. Though for his IRAs, he didn't do that. This was a Jesuit. And Zack Knight has been claiming that I would want another Jesuit for a husband. Also, the Jesuits killed the H&R Block workers who refused to submit an incorrect tax return designed to make me look like a tax swindler. So when I backed out of my contract with H&R Block, they actually liked it. They were good people. And the Jesuits killed them for backing out and not cooperating to do my tax return incorrectly and get me labeled as a tax evader. The Jesuits wanted to destroy my reputation because I was exposing their crimes to the world as I strive to defend my men.